I'm Sora Luxon, and this is Magic Lesson number 38, Science and Religion Part 2, or Science and Religion Continued, now that we're back from Monday's holiday of the Labor Day break. I ended last time discussing how science and religion are two polarized extremes of the same thing, and how depolarization allows the magic practitioner to see this, allowing both to be comprehensible without either having to battle the other the way they so often seem to be portrayed in society and culture as doing. The battle between science and religion isn't just resolvable, it's already resolved. It always has been. There is a middle way, a hidden way, an occult way, a clear path that the high magic practitioner can walk, which moves between both of these interpretations, where religion's subconscious receptive nature and science's projective conscious nature can both be accessed, interpreted, and used jointly to the best possible effect for both the individual and the whole. Look to sigil magic, just as a for instance, as a for example. I've discussed sigil magic, the practice of it, in an earlier video, and it's very popular in chaos magic. It's very prevalent there. In sigil magic, you have the applied practice of the science of psychology. You have the background of the experimentation and psychoanalytical research that's already been done in mammals, in human brains, because humans are mammals after all, that our brains pattern and function and how we interpret and collect information by the use of symbols, images, pictographic iconography, how it's consumed by the subconscious mind quickly and powerfully. That's science. Every marketing expert and advertising agency knows the science of this, its validity, and then puts it to very useful effect. Sigil magic does too. You're told to make your sigil as concise, as simple as possible. So as you inscribe the simplest, most concise pictogram that you possibly can, the message you're making and seeking to then imprint directly upon your subconscious mind is then going to work the best, right? The trance-like state, however, that needs to be learned and then fully accepted and believed in order to create the necessary magical charge to actually gain access to and then focus and direct magical energy to the sigil created, right? Charge it and then release it. That part of sigil magic is very much more reliant on things like emotion, intent, and belief. At the very least, as belief was necessary to learn the meditative focus required in the first place, right? To learn how to gain access to those perceptions and then hone them and train in them so that they can be applied at will. That's a much more subconscious leap of faith, just to learn how to access the necessary energies for the first time, to charge a sigil for the first time. So see, here in sigil magic, in this one example, you have applied logic and illogical belief. You have both science and, for lack of a better term, with or without the dogma, just a loose definition of religion, right? So you have science and religion, logic and illogic, right? Fact and belief, both being used together right there in sigil magic to massively powerful effects. So science and religion can obviously be used together, and it works best if you do. Science and religion are both right, if you will, just as they are both wrong, which is what I said in last week's podcast. They're both correct, they're both incorrect. When science argues that religion, say like scriptures in certain religions with stories of miraculous events. So when science argues that those scriptures, those stories of what are seemingly impossible events, for instance, when science says that's just a bunch of illogical, irrational writing, make-believe, in that way, science is correct because it is illogical and it is irrational. Because religion, belief, faith, it isn't meant to be logical, nor does it require logic. It doesn't require rationality. And when religion argues that science is cold or unfeeling, that it doesn't have any emotion in how it interprets and applies information, and that it causes harm in that way, religion is correct because science doesn't require belief or feeling. It doesn't require emotional understanding. That's not what an experiment asks of the person trying to collect data. There actually isn't some great, confusing, unknowable mist of nonsense out there in the world where you have to navigate the conflicts of these two things, of both science and religion being polarized against each other. Granted, that might be what the majority drifts into doing, but it isn't how it is, and it isn't how it can be. Like all polarized extremes, these two poles of science and religion are what the occultist is meant to walk between. The depolarized high magic practitioner sees both for what they actually genuinely are, and then can find and travel the middle way, which is very real. It is there to be walked. The middle path, where conflict resolves, balance exists, and beneficial, genuine, authentic insight and energy actually flows from. All magic happens in the middle. There's a reason we use a circle and stand at the center of it. And depolarization is how we gain entry to that fulcrum point. And adherence to science or religion is not enough. It's never been enough. And adherence to the battle between the two, as if they do not or cannot coexist, or must find a way to cancel one another out, locked in this eternal battle of wills, supposedly, that is not enough. To be a magician, to walk the middle way, to gain actual access to the esoteric knowledge, the knowledge that's only available to the few, to the power of magic. Both logic and belief are necessary elements. They're both part of the same whole. Both must be sought and comprehended and seen as being the polarities they are, and then applied on balance. Things that are real to the conscious mind are real. Things that are real to the subconscious mind are also very real. Let's say you get your heart broken, or someone you know gets their heart broken. Can that person point to the physical injury of heartbreak? No. Does that make them any less depressed? Does that make the effect of the heartbreak any less real? Is it not existent in reality, right? Of course it exists. Of course it's real. And of course it's not going to make them any less depressed that there isn't a physical injury involved. Faith, belief, the subconscious, the planes of emotion, energetic, invisible causation, other reality archetypes, including those found in higher idea forms. Those are all very real. Archetypes are valid and very real to the subconscious mind, just as real as a broken heart is. And they're going to have the same real effects and physicality, the same real effects and actual daily life. Now, by the same rule does a highly trained mystic have to feel the pain of a broken arm? No, right? There are yogis who, in a meditative state, can, by mental will alone, slow their own heart rate, their own breathing, and then actually choose to mentally remove themselves from the physical sensation in their own neurons of pain being caused in their physical body, if they choose to do so. Now, does that make the scientific fact that their arm is broken any less real? No, they might not have to choose to feel the pain of it if they're trained in such a way as to be able to move above it or ascend past it, right? But until it heals, their arm is still broken, whether or not they can feel it. Scientifically, factually, they have a very, really broken arm. So clearly, both science and belief make sense. Both are real. Both can have effects in the real world. Both systems function. There are properties of this world that we explain and seek to explain. Science. There are properties of other worlds or idea forms that we explain and seek to explain. Belief. Religion. The adept, the effective occultist, should strive for both in harmony with each other, both being used correctly, both being harnessed and brought into the same depolarized balance as the magician is him or herself. As in nearly all things, there actually needs be no conflict here, and great power can be gained in seeking out the center, which is very much a reality, where the polarities resolve into energetic unity. There is no war between science and religion. Not for the experienced occultist. You have core beliefs, things that have been conditioned by your past, your surroundings, your interactions, and yourself into very powerful subconscious and conscious systems of believed, perceived reality. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, that includes the conditioning that religion and science don't get along with each other. Instead of the very logical and energetically obvious conclusion that they actually not only get along just fine and always have, but that they're simply polarized extremes of the same whole. Two different sides of how something is being approached. Happily, if you're a practitioner of magic who has been given the tools and ability to choose willfully to figure out what those conditioned beliefs are, then you can, right? You can figure out whether or not those beliefs and that conditioning within you should be changed into what you want them to be for yourself. And then how to begin and persist in doing just that, changing them if you wish to. Depolarize. That's what the occultist does. That's what the high magical practitioner does. Depolarize, depolarize, depolarize. And you'll begin to see things clearly. You'll begin to have access to the conditioning within yourself that you can make changes to according to how you best want to make them. You can decide what program you want to be running, right? What software you want to have running you. You can choose it. Why wouldn't you go buy the best and load that up, right? And if you wish to, you can then find the truth, the truths. You can find what you're seeking. And it certainly isn't a war that's going on between two parts of the same whole. If you want to get at the crux of a thing, at its nature, at its essence, look to its center, right? There's logic there. There's common sense there, whether by belief or rationale. look to its center, the middle path, the point of depolarization that reveals the actual identity and power of the reality of the whole. Until next time.